Also, people ask, what is grace? Grace is that blessing of clarity. Blessing of clarity and ability to act upon this, which is courage. So, in a nutshell, a blessing is clarity, courage, and humility. Because sometimes people have an opportunity to be blessed, but they cannot accept it. Too arrogant. They want to do it their own way. And so they stumble. And I think that when people come out of the paradigm of curse, because in the down cycle, everyone is cursed, everyone is living their corruption and distortion of the previous cycles. So when we come to this sort of straight line, we come out of the curse, you may say, but curse is a very deep thing to understand what that really is. And I actually recorded one video about it, which I will release soon. So curse is a distorted transmission of the collective, or within the collective. It's a distorted flow of being, right? And so when you come out of this cursed paradigm, you start being grateful. Grateful to every moment of your existence, even knowing that you're in a limited paradigm. You have limitations, and the expression of these limitations is your current life, this dimension, this physical limitations that we have, unawareness of subtler dimensions, and so on and so forth. So when you welcome that grace, you awaken. But awakening means you not only have to welcome that grace, you have to realign yourself with that grace. It means you have to see everything that happens after that awakening as an opportunity to realign and to humble you down. So you have to be courageous enough to take that opportunity and to, act upon it, because sometimes an opportunity presents itself, but you don't recognize, you don't understand, and you don't take that opportunity. So you make choices according to your old patterns, traumatic patterns, rather than something like trusting and just taking a leap of faith. I'm not saying all the time, but this is what is wisdom. You have to understand these moments of opportunity. And the more you are aligned with that grace, the more clarity you have. Enlightenment is clarity as well, because it's clarity that everly expands. And so you gain more and more clarity, not only about this dimension, but beyond this dimension. That's how we evolve. And so when you have clarity, you just don't waste your energy unnecessarily for silly, stupid movements. You know when to wait, when to act, when to be, when to do, when not to do, when to let things pass, and when to grab an opportunity because it's a chance for you to let go of something or get on a new level of existence, even in the physical dimension, right? So this is wisdom, this is blessing, this is grace. When people live through this, lots of people think and hope to live in grace and blessing and kind of divinely, you may say. But these are just words. They pray, they spiritually act, maybe. They show something spiritually, but they're not aligned within. So it means they're not living with that grace. They're only hoping, wishing, wannabes, but not really are that. So it's very important to simplify your existence so that you can be in tune with the grace and recognize it in your life and let it guide you, because that grace is nothing else but your higher being. And so when you awaken to that grace, in other words, you awaken to the higher being. In other words, you experience yoga. In other words, you experience samadhi. In other words, you experience absorption. In other words, You awaken to your light essence. You see how many words we created. In other words, you've gained a little bit of clarity. But that's not enlightenment. That's just a little bit of clarity. And then you could have deluded yourself again. And you will take time to come out of these delusions, to gain more and more clarity, to expand that clarity. Because when you are in this process, really aligned with this process, you never want to define yourself. I'm enlightened, I gain this enlightened, because you know it's an ongoing process, it never ends. And that one who's expanded to this degree will look at the being who's expanded to this degree as a fool, saying that this degree means some finality or an achievement. That's why we should always remember to humble down before creation. Because if the creation is that wholesome clarity and awareness, then our attempts to expand our awareness are but mere efforts to stay in alignment with that greatness, with that vastness, with that, absolute, all-knowing existence, right? And so when we get, at least within ourselves, that humility, we gain undeniable, unshakable clarity to move on with our evolution. Otherwise, there is a risk to get stuck in this one niche where you just peeped in a little bit. But because this experience, in comparison with this experience, is so mind-blowing, that you start instantly assuming greatness, which becomes your demise and a way to perish, because the identity is still unrefined. That's why many people fall and go into more delusion after the awakening, because having these expanded experiences doesn't guarantee anything. On the contrary, it's a danger. That's why they always say Kundalini awakening or conscious awakening may lead you most of the time to mental asylum, to mental emotional imbalances, because you don't understand that being aware of something, gaining momentary clarity, means being able to look at all that which limits your clarity, which is distortions, corruptions, trauma. And this is not pleasant at all. For that, you need guidance. But is there guidance? I would say 99.99999% no. And that's why, because everyone who even peeped in and a little bit expanded their boundaries momentarily still were put back by their own delusion, by their own assumption and connection of that unrefined self with this experience. So that's why they are still in delusion, deluding others and living a very limited life, but maybe wearing spiritual robes, maybe speaking spiritually very convincingly, but they know themselves who they are, because the being who is in alignment with the creation is in a constant state of humility and gratitude, not imposed humility, not forceful gratitude, but so natural that there is never a thought of one's greatness or one's achievement. And that's why the process of expansion is unimpeded. There is no impediment anymore. And this impediment is that your mind submitted itself to the higher being and to the grace. It became a humble servant. But as long as it thinks and assumes it's the greatness of its own limited existence, it's but a fool, it's but a fraud, it's but a magician. A magician that is limited in their own delusion and ambition for power. Because truly evolved beings never stop, they never claim anything, because their mind is limitless. They don't hold onto any space or time continuum. And that's why they continue expanding. They continue transforming. They continue alchemizing. and their body becomes their fruit, which they enjoy. Enjoy in gratitude and simplicity. So this is the point of spiritual life. Life in alignment with the higher blessing and grace, in the humility and appreciation, even of those limitations, even of those negative experiences or positive experiences. And when you hold on to that grace, you do not allow the limited self, the unhealed parts of yourself to connect to the spiritual experiences and to create a new paradigm out of yourself, to create a new, again, limitation within yourself. You just flow, stepping out of each moment into a new moment. And these are not just words. But if people cannot register higher frequency within themselves, they will never register higher frequency beyond words. And that's why they will be going full circle through this delusion of falling for words, because they cannot perceive high frequency within themselves. How could they recognize high frequency from the outside of themselves? But those souls who have that higher frequency will vibrate and perceive that higher frequency. That higher frequency does not have intention. That higher frequency does not need anything from anyone. It is already fulfilled and wholesome on its own. That's why it's called pure. And those who vibrate this purity, they are pure vessels of true knowledge, of true yoga. They're almost inexistent at this day and age. But if your soul vibrates and still cultivates that frequency within itself, and to cultivate it means you trust unconditionally. You may doubt, you may have this and that, you still trust. You're still grateful. You're still humble down. Then you're on the right path. That's all. And there is deep acceptance, you know. There's deep acceptance. And when there is deep acceptance, it means all these internal currents that resist the path of grace are dissolved. Whatever is happening outside of you, acceptance. Not just words, but just its internal perception of consciousness doesn't get triggered, doesn't, move unnecessarily. Because who moves this consciousness, this limited currents within? They are triggered, they are invoked. But if there's nothing there to be invoked, you stay tranquil. Whatever happens around, you're just like, okay, it took place, it happened. And you only act if there's a need to act. When you really know spontaneously that, okay, this is the right moment, there's something there where you need to interfere. Most of the time when people are in alignment, they don't interfere with the world unnecessarily. And the world means the projection. They are enjoying the projection because they cannot be just, invoked or triggered easily to come out of that, wholesome being. But if they know that, okay, this is the time, they will interfere. So wise beings, higher consciousness does not interfere with our mundane idiocracy. Because that idiocracy is of our own making. We've created it, so we have to deal with it. People pray to God, asking for higher being to interfere. Most of the time, it will not interfere because through non-interference, it allows you to correct your mistakes, to correct your path yourself. And it's not a mistake. Mistake is when you know yourself that that action or previous actions or assumptions, attitudes brought you to trouble and suffering. Only through pain you understand that you're not in alignment. Only through pain you understand that you are suffering. Because pain shows you that you're not in alignment, that you're draining yourself through certain aspects of life, that you're not living in that alignment. And there are holes within your energetic body, eventually causing pain in the physical body, draining, aging, decay, disease. And so when you understand the meaning of pain, you learn to correct your pathways. So then it results in different attitude and behavior eventually. That's how you correct yourself. That's how you evolve also externally. Because you understand that certain behaviors led you to trouble, led you to suffering, or certain attitudes in life, certain assumptions, certain lifestyle. So you correct it. What does it have to do with God or higher being? That's just a pure frequency. If you connect to it, it will show you your errors, where you went awry, where you went astray, where you betrayed yourself, where you didn't stay true to yourself. That's all. That's the whole purpose of keeping aligned with a high frequency. There's nothing more to it. And so when you keep and cultivate a humble down, you start admitting your ways and the way they led you or misled you, and then you're able to correct. Without that, there is no evolution. There's only delusion. Either slow delusion or fast delusion. Depends on your actions. So that's all. I hope it brought you some clarity.